Your emergency food stockpile just failed. Not the packaging, the chemistry inside it. Those freeze-dried meals with 25-year guarantees, they're degrading in 18 months because polyunsaturated fats don't care about nitrogen flush. They oxidize. Your brown rice went rancid. Your canned meat is bulging with botulism. The tactical meal pouches you spent $8,000 on are committing chemical suicide while they sit in your basement. And now, when you actually need them, you're learning the survival food industry sold you planned obsolescence in mylar. But here's what they buried. There are 11 foods that last forever. Not marketing forever, chemical forever. They don't degrade in 25 years. They don't degrade in 100. Some have been edible for 3,000 years. They're not illegal. They're not classified. They're just unprofitable. And today, you're going to learn why ancient osmotic chemistry, crystalline stability, and living fermentation could make you independent of the supply chain that's designed to keep you dependent. Honey doesn't spoil. Not in 10 years. Not in 100. Not in 3,000. Archaeologists have found sealed jars of honey in Egyptian tombs that are still edible. Still golden. Still perfect. That's not a preservation miracle. That's chemistry. And here's why. Honey has a water activity level below 0.6. Water activity is the measure of free water available in a substance for microbial growth. Bacteria need a water activity of at least 0.91 to survive. Mold needs 0.80. Honey sits at 0.5 to 0.6. That's an osmotic death zone. The sugar concentration is so high that when a bacterial cell comes into contact with honey, water gets pulled out of the cell through osmosis. The cell membrane ruptures. The bacteria dies. It's not a chemical reaction. It's physics. The microorganism literally gets desiccated to death. But it gets better. Honey contains an enzyme called glucose oxidase. When honey gets diluted, even slightly, this enzyme produces hydrogen peroxide. That's a natural antimicrobial compound. So even if you introduce moisture, honey defends itself chemically. And when honey crystallizes, when it turns grainy and solid, that's not spoilage. That's glucose precipitation. You can reverse it by gently heating the jar. The honey returns to liquid form at full potency. The crystallization is cosmetic, not chemical degradation. Salt is even simpler. Pure sodium chloride is a mineral. It's inert. It cannot degrade because it's not an organic compound. There's nothing to oxidize, nothing to ferment, nothing to rot. Salt is hygroscopic. It pulls moisture out of anything it touches. That's why you salt meat to preserve it. The salt draws water out of bacterial cells through osmosis, and the cells collapse. Same mechanism as honey. Osmotic pressure as a weapon. But here's the catch. The survival industry sells you iodized salt with anti-caking agents. Those additives break down. They clump. They reduce shelf life. Pure salt, just NaCl, lasts forever. Store it dry and it will outlive your grandchildren. Sugar works the same way. Pure sucrose, high osmotic pressure, low water activity. When stored in a sealed container away from moisture, sugar doesn't degrade. It might harden into a block if it absorbs humidity, but you can break it apart. The chemistry is unchanged. The calories are intact, 3 down. But sweetness and preservation don't give you calories. If you want to survive months without resupply, you need energy density. You need carbohydrates and fats that won't turn to poison in your pantry. Most preppers stockpile the wrong grains. They buy brown rice because the health blogs told them it's better. More fiber, more nutrients, more vitamins, and in 6 months, it's rancid. The smell hits you when you open the bucket. Bitter, chemical, like old paint. That's lipid oxidation, and it's poison. Here's why. Brown rice is a whole grain. That means it still has the bran layer attached. The bran contains oils, polyunsaturated fats, and every single fat molecule with a double bond is a target for oxygen. When oxygen attacks those double bonds, you get oxidation. The fats break down into aldehydes and ketones. These are the same compounds that make spoiled food smell rancid. They're toxic. They cause inflammation, cellular damage, free radical formation. White rice doesn't have this problem. White rice is just the endosperm. Pure starch. No bran, no germ, no oils. There's nothing to oxidize. When you store white rice in a sealed container with oxygen absorbers, you're removing the only thing that can degrade it: moisture and oxygen. Take those away and white rice lasts 30 years. Some studies say longer. The starch molecules don't break down. The calories don't disappear. It just sits there, waiting. Hard wheat berries work the same way, but with a twist. A whole wheat berry, unmilled, has the bran intact, but the kernel is sealed. Oxygen can't penetrate easily. Store wheat berries in mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, and they last decades. But the moment you mill them into flour, the clock starts. You've exposed the oils in the bran to oxygen. You've created surface area. Flour goes rancid in 6 to 12 months. The whole grain marketing campaign convinced you to buy healthy flour. What they didn't tell you is that whole grain means short shelf life. And short shelf life means you buy more. You think you're buying health? You're not. You're buying planned obsolescence. Baking soda is the fourth food, and it's not even food. Sodium bicarbonate. It's an inorganic compound. It cannot spoil because there's nothing organic to degrade. No fats, no proteins, no sugars. It's a mineral salt, and it has more uses than any single item in your stockpile. Leavening agent for bread, fire suppressant for grease fires, antacid for stomach acid, cleaning agent, deodorizer, toothpaste. Store it dry and it outlasts you. That's 5 foods. You've got preservation, you've got carbohydrates, but in a grid-down collapse, carbs alone will starve you slowly. You need fats. And the cooking oil in your pantry is a ticking time bomb. You open your vegetable oil after 18 months in storage. It smells like paint thinner, acrid, chemical. That's not spoilage, that's rancidity. And rancid fats aren't just unpleasant, they're toxic. Here's why most cooking oils have expiration dates. The molecular structure: vegetable oils, seed oils, canola, soybean, sunflower, they're all polyunsaturated fats. That means their fatty acid chains contain multiple double bonds. Each double bond is a site where oxygen can attack. When oxygen hits those bonds, you get lipid peroxidation. The fat molecules break apart. They form free radicals. These are unstable molecules that damage cells, trigger inflammation, and accelerate aging. Consuming rancid oil is like drinking liquid cellular damage. The degradation timeline is brutal. Even unopened, stored in a dark pantry, vegetable oils start oxidizing within 6 to 12 months. Light accelerates it. Heat accelerates it. Once you open the bottle and expose it to air, the clock speeds up. That's why the bottle says use within 3 months of opening. They're not being cautious. They're telling you the chemistry. So what fats actually last? Saturated fats. And here's the key difference. Saturated fats have no double bonds. The carbon chain is saturated with hydrogen atoms. There are no oxidation sites for oxygen to attack. The molecule is stable. It doesn't break down. Ghee is clarified butter. You take butter, heat it, and remove all the milk solids and water. What's left is pure butterfat, about 65% saturated fat. No proteins to spoil, no sugars to ferment, no water to support bacterial growth. Store ghee in a sealed jar at room temperature, and it lasts a year, sometimes longer. In the fridge, it lasts indefinitely. Traditional cultures in India have used ghee as preserved fat for thousands of years. It doesn't go rancid because there's nothing to oxidize. Coconut oil is even better. It's 90% saturated fat. The dominant fatty acid is lauric acid, which has antimicrobial properties. It literally resists bacterial contamination. Below 76 degrees Fahrenheit, coconut oil solidifies. That's not rancidity, that's crystallization. Heat it, and it returns to liquid form, full potency. Stored properly, sealed from light and moisture, coconut oil lasts years without degradation. But the oil industry doesn't sell you ghee and coconut oil. They sell you cheap seed oils. Soybean oil costs pennies per gallon to produce. It's a byproduct of industrial soy processing. The industry needs to move volume, and they need you to replace it every year. A fat that lasts a decade kills repeat business. 7 foods down. You've got sweetness, salt, carbs, and fats. But here's the problem. Every long-term prepper hits eventually. Protein. And this is where most stockpiles fail completely. Protein is the killer, literally. Without complete amino acids, your body starts cannibalizing itself. Muscle tissue breaks down. Immune function collapses. And every form of protein storage you've been sold has a fatal flaw. Canned meat looks reliable. Metal can. Vacuum seal, shelf-stable stamp. But here's what happens over time. The metal corrodes, slowly, invisibly. Acidic foods like tomato sauce accelerate it. The interior coating breaks down. You get microscopic breaches in the seal. Botulism spores get in. They thrive in anaerobic environments. That's what a sealed can is. An oxygen-free breeding ground. One spore produces enough toxin to paralyze your respiratory system in hours. And you can't tell by looking. The real shelf life of canned meat is 2 to 5 years, not the 10 they print on the label. Freeze-dried meat has a different problem. The freeze-drying process removes water, but it can't remove all the fat. Even lean meat has residual lipids. Those fats oxidize. The same process that kills your cooking oil kills your freeze-dried beef. And freeze-dried protein is expensive. You're paying $40 to $60 per pound. Compare that to fresh meat at $5 to $8 per pound. You're paying a 10 times premium for a product that degrades faster than you think. So what's the answer? Dried legumes. Beans, lentils, peas. When stored at 10% moisture or less in sealed containers with oxygen absorbers, they last 10 to 30 years. Some studies say longer. The proteins don't denature. The amino acids stay intact. You can store black beans, kidney beans, chickpeas, red lentils, split peas. All of them work. But here's the thing people miss. Legumes aren't complete proteins by themselves. They're low in methionine. Rice is low in lysine. But when you combine beans and rice, you get all 9 essential amino acids your body can't produce. It's not a coincidence that every traditional culture figured this out. Beans and rice in Latin America, dal and rice in India, lentils and wheat in the Middle East. It works because the chemistry works. The beans might get harder after 20 years of storage. That's not spoilage. That's moisture loss making the seed coat tougher. You just soak them longer, 24 hours instead of 8, or use a pressure cooker. The nutrition is still there. Cost comparison. Dried beans run $1 to $2 per pound. Freeze-dried meat runs $40 to $60. Over a year's supply of protein, you're looking at $200 for beans versus $6,000 for freeze-dried meat. The industry loves customers who pay 30 times more for a product that fails faster. 9 foods down. But there's one preservation technology most preppers completely ignore. It's ancient. It's alive. And it creates food that gets better with time instead of degrading. We're talking about fermentation. Most food preservation kills bacteria. Fermentation weaponizes it. Instead of destroying microorganisms, you cultivate the ones that make your food inhospitable to everything else. And when done right, fermentation creates food that doesn't just last decades, it lasts centuries. Archaeologists have pulled bottles of soy sauce and vinegar from sunken ships, centuries underwater, still edible, still acidic. still perfect. That's not luck. That's chemistry. Here's how it works. Fermentation is controlled decomposition. You introduce beneficial bacteria or yeast into food. These organisms consume sugars and produce acid. Lactic acid in sauerkraut. Acetic acid in vinegar. The pH drops. When pH gets low enough, harmful bacteria can't survive. The environment becomes too acidic, and the beneficial organisms that created that acid, they thrive in it. They've built a moat. They've made the food hostile to invaders. Soy sauce is a perfect example. Traditional soy sauce contains 14 to 18% salt. That's already a microbial death zone through osmotic pressure. But then you add fermentation. Aspergillus mold breaks down the soybeans. Lactic acid bacteria lower the pH. You get dual preservation, high sodium and low acidity working together. Properly sealed, traditional soy sauce lasts indefinitely. There are documented examples of soy sauce over 100 years old still being edible. Vinegar works on pure acidity. It's 4 to 8% acetic acid. The pH sits between 2 and 3. That's hostile to every spoilage organism on Earth. Bacteria can't grow. Mold can't grow. Nothing survives. And here's the thing people don't understand. Vinegar cannot spoil because vinegar is spoilage. It's the end product of fermentation. It's what happens when alcohol gets converted to acid by Acetobacter. There's nowhere further to degrade. You can use vinegar for more than food. It's a cleaning agent, disinfectant, wound care in emergencies, pH adjuster for water. It's a multi-tool that happens to be edible. Sometimes you'll see a cloudy film form in vinegar. That's called mother of vinegar. It's a cellulose pellicle produced by Acetobacter. It looks like spoilage. It's not. It's proof the fermentation is still active. You can use that pellicle to start a new batch of vinegar. It's living preservation. But here's the corporate trap. Modern soy sauce often comes in low sodium or light versions. They've reduced the salt to appeal to health trends. Lower salt means the osmotic preservation weakens. The product degrades faster. You have to buy more. Traditional high-salt soy sauce lasts forever. The diluted version lasts years. And the industry prefers customers who come back. 11 foods. But you're still missing something critical. You can't survive on calories and protein alone. Your body needs micronutrients, and there's one category of permanent food that delivers them. Dried herbs and spices. Dried herbs and spices aren't luxuries. They're medicine, preservation agents, and survival tools. When you remove water from plant material, you halt enzymatic degradation. Below 10% moisture, the compounds that made those plants useful stay locked in place. Concentrated. Stable. Permanent. Oregano and thyme contain carbohydrates. That's a phenolic compound with antibacterial properties. It kills E. coli. It kills salmonella. Turmeric contains curcumin, a potent anti-inflammatory. Ginger has gingerol for digestive function. Garlic powder, when dried properly, retains allicin. That's an organosulfur compound with antimicrobial and cardiovascular benefits. These aren't cooking ingredients. They're pharmacy-grade compounds in food form. The essential oils and spices are volatile compounds. Exposed to air, they evaporate. Exposed to light, they break down. But sealed in airtight containers, stored in the dark. Kept cool, they last decades. The potency fades slowly. After 2 to 3 years, the flavor weakens. But the active compounds remain. A 10-year-old jar of oregano won't taste as strong, but the carbohydrate is still there. It's not dangerous, it's just less intense. Whole spices last longer than ground. Grinding exposes the inner oils to oxygen. Oxidation begins immediately. Buy whole peppercorns, whole coriander seeds, whole cinnamon sticks. Grind them as needed. You preserve maximum potency. You now have the complete system. 11 foods, honey, salt, and sugar for preservation and sweetness. White rice and hard wheat for carbohydrates. Baking soda for utility. ghee and coconut oil for fats, dried legumes for protein, soy sauce and vinegar for fermented preservation, dried herbs and spices for micronutrients and medicine. Every survival need covered by foods that defeat time. But here's the question nobody's asking. If these foods last forever, why isn't the survival industry pushing them hard? Why are they selling you freeze-dried meals in tactical packaging instead? The survival food industry doesn't want you to know about these 11 foods, because a customer who solves their problem permanently is a customer they lose forever. This is the same pattern you see everywhere. Planned obsolescence isn't a conspiracy theory, it's a business model. The emergency food market is worth $3 to $5 billion annually. It's built on products that claim 5 to 25-year shelf lives and require replacement. A family of 4 buying freeze-dried meals at $10 to $15 per serving for 1 year costs $15,000 to $20,000. In 10 years, you buy another stockpile. Over a lifetime, you've spent $60,000 to $80,000 on food that degrades on schedule. Compare that to permanent foods. A year's supply of white rice, dried beans, honey, salt, cooking oil, and spices for a family of 4 costs $300 to $600. One time, you never replace it. The industry can't survive that math, so they sell you tactical packaging, nitrogen-flushed pouches, proprietary freeze-drying processes, survival meal kits in camo buckets. The marketing is designed to make you feel prepared while keeping you dependent. And it works. Monthly subscription boxes create recurring revenue. Emergency food contracts go to manufacturers who sell expensive packaged meals, not to distributors promoting 50-pound bags of rice. The foods that last forever can't be patented. Salt is salt. Honey is honey. There's no brand differentiation, no premium pricing justification. You can buy them in bulk from any wholesaler. The survival industry can't capture that market, so they pretend it doesn't exist. They create anxiety about expiration dates, then sell you expensive solutions that expire on schedule. Food insecurity becomes a revenue stream. And you're the product. So here's what it comes down to. The 11 foods aren't hidden because they don't work. They're hidden because they work too well, and in a system built on dependency, independence is the ultimate threat. 11 foods. That's the entire foundation. Honey, salt, and sugar for preservation. Baking soda for utility. White rice and hard wheat for carbohydrates. Ghee and coconut oil for fats. Dried legumes for protein. Soy sauce and vinegar for fermented preservation. Dried herbs and spices for micronutrients and medicine. Not just survival. Liberation from the supply chain. A year's supply for a family of 4 fits in a closet. Compare that to pallets of freeze-dried meals. The cost difference is even more brutal. Permanent foods run $300 to $600 total. Commercial survival food runs $5,000 to $10,000 for the same coverage. And you never replace the permanent stockpile. It just sits there, waiting. The window to stockpile is closing. China controls 70% of global food exports. The Ukraine-Russia conflict has already disrupted grain supplies. Taiwan is a powder keg. The Middle East is unstable. Just-in-time logistics means there's no buffer. 3 missed shipments and grocery stores are empty. Export bans come first, then panic buying, then martial law and rationing. You stockpile now, or you don't stockpile at all. Buy in bulk. 50-pound bags of white rice, 25-pound bags of dried beans, mylar bags and oxygen absorbers for proper storage. Diversify your suppliers. Don't wait for permission. The 11 foods aren't a secret. They're just unfashionable. And that's exactly why they work. Osmotic pressure doesn't care about quarterly earnings. Oxidation doesn't negotiate with marketing departments. Chemistry is real. Marketing is theater. And when the supply chain breaks, only one of those things will keep you alive.